A 14-year-old girl vanished. The truth is horrible. Let me tell you why.
You only need to walk around the surrounding streets to see the effect that Alice's disappearance has had on the whole community.
It's now 3 weeks since Alice went missing, and I want to thank the public, but I need more.
This is now a murder investigation.
Alice Gross is a normal girl. She's 14 years old, lives in London, and enjoys life in the big city. She does well in school and has a large group of friends. Everything at home is also going well. The Gross family is very close. Alice has a strong bond with her older sister Nina. Alice is very talented in music. She sings and plays several instruments. Even though she's still young, she already writes her own songs. Maybe one day, she could have turned her passion into a career if she hadn't met someone in 2014 who had dark intentions. Alice loves taking long walks around the city. Sometimes she walks for hours through London, and that's exactly what she planned to do on August 28, 2014. It was summer vacation. Alice left her family's house in Hanwell, London at around 1 p.m. She told her mother that she would be back home by 6 p.m. at the latest. Alice took her usual route along the Grand Union Canal. At 3:45 p.m., surveillance cameras recorded her at Brentford Lock, near the canal. At 4:26, the final footage of her was captured on Trumpers Way, also by the canal. Shortly after, she sent a text message to her father, letting him know she was on her way home and would be back soon. But she never arrived. Alice's parents reacted quickly, because their daughter was usually very reliable. When she didn't come home at 6 p.m. as promised, they immediately knew something was wrong. Less than an hour later, at around 7 p.m., they filed a missing person report. At first, the police took wide-ranging but standard measures. Alice was 14, knew the area well, and had been walking in busy parts of London during the day. Plus, her parents had reported her missing right away. So authorities believed she would soon be found. The Metropolitan Police questioned Alice's friends. They searched the homes of people she knew, as well as parks all over London, and of course, including her usual walking route. But none of this led to any answers. Alice Gross remained missing. Even on the night from August 28th to August 29th, she did not return home. Missing posters with Alice's face were put up all over West London. Her family was overwhelmed with worry. But despite their fear, her parents and sister came up with a special plan to raise awareness about her disappearance. All over Ealing, Alice's family and friends tie yellow ribbons to trees, traffic signs, and famous landmarks. Soon, people in Ealing start wearing yellow shirts with #FindAlice printed on them. It catches everyone's attention and leads to major British news outlets covering Alice's disappearance. Soon, almost everyone in the UK knows Alice Gross's face. And in a missing person case, that is very important. The police also put in a huge effort, with more than 600 searchers involved. It becomes one of the biggest search operations in London's history. And when they do, they shatter the hopes of Alice's family. On September 4th, the police released the surveillance camera footage I mentioned earlier. These are the last images of Alice alive. They also announced that Alice's backpack has been found. Inside the backpack are the shoes she was wearing when she disappeared, a pair of blue Vans that definitely belonged to her. However, some important personal items are missing, including her iPhone. The phone could have been very useful for the police. The backpack is discovered near Ealing Hospital. This hospital has a special unit for sex offenders. Because the bag was found so close to the hospital, the Ealing Hospital becomes an important location in the investigation. This, of course, raises serious fears, and the events of the next few days make things even worse. On September 6th, the police arrest somebody, a 25-year-old man in Ealing. He is suspected of murdering Alice Gross. At this point, no further details are given. Instead, the police release photos of several potential witnesses. Surveillance cameras near the place where Alice was last seen recorded cyclists passing by. The police hope these cyclists saw something important. Later, more details about the 25-year-old suspect become public. He was arrested after a tip from a member of the public. The tip said that around the time Alice disappeared, the man had a shovel, large trash bags, and ropes in his car trunk, items that could be used to dispose of a body. During questioning, the suspect refuses to explain why he had these things in his car. The next day on September 7th, a second man is arrested. He is 51 years old and is also suspected of killing Alice Gross. The police say that these two arrests are not connected. This means the 51-year-old suspect was not reported or accused by the first man. Meanwhile, the search continues, focusing on the area around the Grand Union Canal. Divers search the canal, while sniffer dogs look for clues along the banks. Because the canal's water is muddy, the search is extremely slow and difficult. Divers must feel their way through the water with their hands, as they cannot see anything. On September 8th, after long interrogations, both suspects are released. The police cannot prove their involvement in Alice's disappearance. The police never reveal why the second man was arrested or what was learned from the questioning. Even though both men were arrested on suspicion of murder and the homicide squad was investigating, the police officially still called it a missing person case. They hoped Alice was still alive and that she could be found and brought home, even though she had now been missing for a week. This hope was based on facts the public did not know at the time. Alice's family had told the police that Alice had been struggling with depression and an eating disorder. Before she disappeared, the Gross family had been trying to get professional help for her. So, there was a possibility that Alice had run away to escape her problems. That's why Alice's parents and her sister Nina used interviews to send personal messages to her.
Alice, we love you, we miss you, we're desperate for you to be home again. We miss you as a daughter, and Nina misses you as a sister. We want our family to be whole again. We miss everything about you, and we just want you to know how much we want you with us, because home is where you belong.
On September 16, 2014, the police issue another search appeal. By this time, Alice has been missing for more than 2 weeks. They're now looking for a 41-year-old construction worker named Arnis Zalkalns. He's from Latvia, but lives in Ealing, London, with his partner and their 1-year-old daughter. The police become interested in him because he disappeared on September 3rd, just a few days after Alice, and because his daily route to work passed through the area where Alice vanished. 2 days later, Zalkalns is officially named as a suspect. Police find more surveillance footage showing him riding his bicycle near the path where both he and Alice had been seen. In the footage, Zalkalns disappears from view for over 30 minutes, even though it should only take 5 minutes to cycle through that area. In other words, something must have stopped Arnis Zalkalns at the spot where Alice Gross disappeared. Later that day, he's seen again in a supermarket. His pants are rolled up, as if he had waded through deep water. The next morning, he's filmed again, returning to the same path he and Alice had taken the day before. He spends some time there before coming back. The police believe he returned multiple times to check the scene of the crime, making sure he had left no evidence behind, because Arnis Zalkalns was definitely capable of violence. Later, it is revealed that in his home country, he had already been in prison. He had already been in prison because of murder. Rudit Zalkalns was only 22 years old when she was murdered by her husband, Arnis Zalkalns. When they met, Arnis seemed like a loving and caring partner. He gave Rudit a lot of attention and almost drowns her in gifts. In 1995, they had a daughter together and got married. But soon, their relationship started to fall apart, partly because Arnis was having an affair with another woman. In 1996, a fight between them escalated. During the argument, Arnis threatened Rudit with a gun. The gun went off, and she was shot in the stomach. She survives. Afterwards, Arnis lied and said Rudit had been shot by a motorcycle gang. But Rudit told her mother the truth, what really happened, that her own husband had shot her. However, she refused to report him to the police, likely out of fear. In March 1997, Arnis lured Rudit into a forest. There, he hit her on the head with a metal rod, then stabbed her multiple times. After that, he buried the body of the young woman. Later, he would admit that he had already dug the grave before killing her, meaning the murder was fully planned. At first, Arnis told the Latvian police that Rudit had disappeared without a trace. But the police carefully investigated and found her diary, which contained enough evidence to suspect Arnis of murder. In July 1997, Rudit's body was discovered in the forest. The following year, Arnis was convicted of her murder. He was sentenced to prison, but after serving only 7 years, he was released in early 2005. After his release, Arnis married another woman. His daughter Elvira, from his marriage with Rudit, found out about it and warned the woman about her father. In 2007, Arnis moved to England. He started working as a construction worker, married again, and had another daughter. His British records contained no mention of his murder conviction. And of course, this was a serious bureaucratic failure. Because his Latvian conviction was not included in his UK criminal record, Arnis was legally considered a man with no criminal history. In 2009, Arnis was suspected of molesting a 14-year-old girl in London Ealing. However, the case was dropped because the victim couldn't provide enough evidence. But if the police had known he had already murdered a woman before, maybe they would have investigated him more seriously. This is only speculation, but it's hard to believe that a murder conviction wouldn't have changed the case. Because on paper, the British police had no reason to suspect Arnis. He was released with no consequences. And 5 years later, he became the prime suspect in Alice Gross's disappearance, with one big problem. Just days after Alice vanished, Arnis disappeared too. This made him even more suspicious, but also made the investigation much harder. While Arnis Zalkalns is still missing, the police search his apartment in Ealing for evidence. Inside, they find a red Trek mountain bike. Investigators soon confirmed that this was the bike Arnis was riding when he took the same path Alice had walked, just 15 minutes after she was last seen. This means that Arnis was one of the cyclists the police originally wanted to question as a witness. But obviously, he never came forward, because by September 3rd, he had already disappeared. Arnis had only recently moved to Ealing, but before that, he lived in Hanwell, just like Alice. The police also search his old address in Hanwell and sees another bicycle. As the investigation continues, British police work closely with authorities in Latvia. They request access to his criminal records from his murder conviction to get a better understanding of him. Meanwhile, the search for Arnis expands across Europe. But after more than a month of uncertainty, Alice's family finally receives the heartbreaking truth.
Last night, the 30th of September, a search was carried out at the River Brent as part of our ongoing investigation into the disappearance of Alice Gross. Following this search, we have sadly recovered a body from the water. We are unable to make a formal identification at this stage, but clearly this news is devastating for Alice's family and friends. My thoughts are with them at this time, and I would ask you to respect their privacy and allow them some space. This is now a murder investigation, and I need the public's help to find out whoever is responsible.
On September 30th, Alice Gross's body is found in the River Brent. Her body is wrapped in a large plastic bag, wearing only a single sock and bound with restraints. The plastic bag was tied to a bicycle wheel, which was weighed down with stones to prevent it from floating to the surface. Whoever hid Alice's body took extreme measures to keep it from being found. Even tree trunks were rolled over the riverbed, covering the bicycle wheel and plastic bag, making sure no one would find her. The autopsy determines that Alice's cause of death was asphyxiation, most likely because a much heavier person was pressing down on her, for example by laying on her. Nearby, cigarette butts with Arnis Zalkalns' DNA are found. His DNA is also on Alice's blue Vans, which were discovered in her backpack, as well as in her intimate area. This supports the police's belief that Alice was murdered in a sexually motivated attack. Arnis Zalkalns is still missing, and he cannot respond to the serious accusations against him. However, the evidence against him continues to grow. Under the terrace of his apartment, investigators find Alice's iPhone case. The phone itself is never found. The only possible explanation for this discovery is that Arnis took her phone. On October 4th, 2014, Arnis Zalkalns is finally found. But he's already dead. His body is discovered in a wooded area of Boston Manor Park, in a hidden spot. He had hanged himself from a tree. Arnis Zalkalns had likely taken his own life about a month earlier, shortly after his disappearance and the massive public search for Alice. Had he been found alive, he would have faced murder charges for the killing of Alice Gross. Instead, he avoided justice by ending his own life. This could be seen as a confession of guilt, but the full truth about Alice's murder died with him. After Alice's tragic death, her family founded a memorial charity in her honor, the Alice Youth Music Memorial Fund. The foundation helps children from disadvantaged backgrounds access music education. Alice had always dreamed of becoming a musician. This dream was stolen from her by her brutal murder. Now, her family hopes to pass on Alice's dream to others, so that in their music and compositions, a part of Alice can live on. Let me know in the comments, do you prefer cases with open endings, or do you enjoy fully resolved cases like this one? Your comments are my most valuable feedback, so feel free to share your thoughts. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to Truthscape if you haven't already. That way you won't miss any future videos, and every interaction helps the channel reach more people who haven't discovered Truthscape yet. Thanks for watching, and for all your support.